Welcome to our strategy tube. In this short presentation, we will be introducing you to the Connors Comprehensive Behavior Rating Scales. This is a common assessment strategy that you will likely come across in your teaching career. Over the course of the presentation, we will explain to you how this assessment is used, what it can be used for, and the value it has in your classroom. But before we get into further detail, let's meet our friend Billy.
This is Billy. He is a grade 2 student in our school. Billy is a very intelligent young man, but he's having a difficult time in school.
Hi, I'm Billy, and I'm so excited to be here. I just can't wait to tell you all about me and get to know you better and work together and have so much fun.
Billy is often restless and has a hard time staying on task. Billy's teacher has noticed these issues in class and suspects there may be a bigger problem going on. Billy is disruptive in the classroom and cannot sit still through the lessons. He frequently blurts things out inappropriately, which is starting to have a negative impact on the rest of the class. His mom has noticed this also. When Billy is playing, he has trouble staying focused on the activity for more than a few minutes. And when it is time to get Billy ready for bed, it is hard for her to be able to get him to sit still long enough to do his pre-bed routine. And he is too excited at bedtime to be able to fall asleep. And getting ready for school is another battle in the morning. From their experiences and knowledge about different child psychopathology, both his mom and his teacher suspect Billy may have ADHD. Let's do some research to learn a little bit more about the disorder.
Created using Powtoon.
So what is ADHD? ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It is a disorder which impacts a child's abilities to sustain attention for long periods of time, their executive functioning skills, and ability to sit still. There are 3 varieties of ADHD: primarily inattentive, primarily hyperactive, or both. This is one of the most prevalent behavioral disorders, affecting 2 to 9% of the population. It is 3 times more likely in boys, and boys are more likely to be diagnosed earlier than girls, as their behavior often tends to be more obvious. A person with ADHD is more likely to have other disorders, including oppositional defiance disorder, conduct disorder, or learning disabilities. These difficulties continue into adolescence and adulthood, though the core symptoms may improve with age. Let's take a moment to think about ADHD in schools. Why, as educators, is it important for us to know about ADHD? Well, unfortunately, the reality is that school can be the most difficult place for children with ADHD to succeed. Let's also take a moment to think about the success criteria that children need in order to be effective and successful in schools. Do you think these criteria involve sitting still and paying attention? If you answered yes, then you answered correctly. It is no wonder that children with ADHD become frustrated and discouraged in school. It is important for us as educators to know about the assessment tools that are out there in order to assess for ADHD. If you suspect that a child in your class has ADHD, there's a chance that you will come across the Connors Assessment Rating Scale. Let's take a look at the Connors Rating Scales. The Connors Rating Scales are a diagnostic tool used to rate a child's behavior. They can be administered to children from the ages of 6 to 18. It involves responses from the child's parents and teachers, and sometimes involves responses from the child if he or she is over the age of 8. The scales are available in long and short versions, and you must provide credentials in order to obtain the assessments. The scales may be purchased by clinical psychologists or individuals who have qualifications and completed training in administering psychological tests and assessments. Depending on the province or state, individuals must provide evidence of membership in a relevant organization or a license or certificate in psychology. If a parent or teacher notice a child is experiencing symptoms that resemble those of ADHD, they can refer the child to a school psychologist, family physician, or a clinical psychologist to have their child assessed for ADHD. There are many tests used in the assessment process, but one of the most common ones and useful for parents and teachers is the Connors rating scale. If the doctor or clinician agrees that the child is exhibiting the common signs for ADHD, they are likely to administer the Connors rating scales. The parent, teacher, and child, if he or she is over the age of 8, are given a series of questions rated from 0 to 3, 0 being not often and 3 being very often. The results of each completed assessment is analyzed by a professional in order to reach a conclusion.
Here is an example of the teacher's rating scale. You will see that the questions are ranked from 0 to 3. 0 relating the behavior to not at all, and 3 being very much. Similar to the teacher's scale, here is a sample of some of the questions you may find on the parent's rating scale. In terms of efficacy and validity, the Connors scales are high in both internal consistency and test-retest reliability. The mean overall correct classification rate was 78% across all forms when tested. Assessment reports are comprehensive and present scores for each scale numerically and graphically. Scores are also reported in relation to the DSM-IV-TR diagnostic criteria. Now let's take a look at some of the cons. The Connors scale is in multiple choice format, which allows for little expression or deviation. The questions are subjective. The scales cannot be the sole determiner for diagnosis and should be paired with a formal interview and physical evaluation. Lastly, the assessment can be quite costly. Now let's look at some of the pros of the Connors assessment. The Connors offers the option for both a short and long version. Administration time is relatively short, even for the longer version. Using the 3 different scales allows for multiple perspectives and input. The adolescent scale allows for valuable self-evaluation and input. The Connors scale helps teachers to determine specific areas to focus on and what accommodations or modifications may be necessary in the classroom. Also, the assessment can be used more than once to determine progression of the individual. When used periodically, the scales can be a determiner of the success of strategies that have been implemented to help the individual.
The Connors rating scales has 4 main implications for practice. Number 1 is to confirm diagnosis. Number 2 is to assist in the development of classroom strategies. Number 3 is to use as a tool of reference. And number 4 measures the growth and decline of the student's progress.
In addition to children like Billy, the Connors rating scales can also be used to assist in the diagnosis of children and adolescents experiencing the following: executive dysfunction, difficulties focusing, impulsivity, working memory challenges, difficulty with alertness, and other symptoms associated with ADHD.
So how do we use this as a teacher? The Connors scales are primarily helpful to teachers as a tool to help confirm a diagnosis of ADHD. Having a confirmed diagnosis allows for better organized and specific strategies for helping the student in the classroom. The feedback forms provided with the assessment help with this as well. As an example, an IEP will now have more clear weaknesses and strengths, as well as goals and targets. This in turn helps a teacher to come up with appropriate accommodations and/or modifications for the student. Lastly, the Connors scales can be used as a tool to reference future assessment and progress of a student. Through periodic use of this assessment, a student's growth or decline can be measured. This also provides teachers with an idea of what instructional strategies may or may not be working.
With the information from the Connors behavior rating scales, Billy's parents and teachers feel more equipped to respond to his needs in the classroom and at home. I used to get extremely frustrated with Billy and his inability to pay attention, but now I have a better understanding of the difficulties he is experiencing and how to respond to him. And now, instead of getting upset, I know what I need to do to help him be successful. Billy's challenging behavior used to drive me crazy, especially at bedtime. Now I am better able to help him work with him. I understand what his strengths and weaknesses are, and we are better able to work together and cooperate. The information from the Connor scales has been a lifesaver. With the results from the assessment tool, everyone is able to work together to help Billy the best that they can and monitor his progress as he grows up. We hope you learned a lot about this tool. Thank you for listening.
Created using Powtoon.